So today I'm going to kind of reread it to you and see if you can be thinking about some words that would describe Jack or Annie, or both of them, okay? So that we can add them to our character trait page. One summer day in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, a mysterious treehouse appeared in the woods. 8-year-old Jack and his 7-year-old sister Annie climbed into the treehouse. They found it was filled with books. Jack and Annie soon discovered that the treehouse was magic. It could take them to the places in the books. All they had to do was to point to a picture and wish to go there. Jack and Annie visited the times of the dinosaurs, knights, pyramids, pirates, and ninjas. Along the way, they discovered that the treehouse belonged to Morgan Le Fay. Morgan is a magical librarian from the time of King Arthur. She travels through time and space gathering books. In their last adventure, Night of the Ninjas, Jack and Annie learned that Morgan was under a spell. To free her, Jack and Annie have to find 4 special things. In old Japan, they found the first thing, a moonstone. Now Jack and Annie are about to set out in search of the second thing, an afternoon on the Amazon. "Hurry, Jack," shouted Annie. Annie ran into the Frog Creek woods. Jack followed her. "It's still here," Annie called. Jack caught up with Annie. She stood beside a tall oak tree. Jack looked up. The magic treehouse was shining in the afternoon sunlight. "We're coming, Peanut," Annie yelled. She grabbed the rope ladder and started up. Jack followed. They climbed and climbed. Finally, they climbed into the treehouse. "Peanut," said Annie. Jack took off his backpack and he looked around. Sunlight slanted across a stack of books about ninjas, pirates, mummies, knights, and dinosaurs. The letter M shimmered on the wooden floor. M for Morgan Le Fay. "I don't think Peanut's here," said Jack. "I wonder where she is," said Annie. "How do you know Peanut's a she?" asked Jack. "I just know it," said Annie. "Oh, brother," said Jack. "Squeak!" Annie laughed. "Look, Jack." A small pink sock was moving across the floor. Yesterday, Annie had turned her sock into a bed for Peanut. Annie picked up the tiny lump. Squeak! A brown and white mouse peeked out of the sock. She looked from Annie to Jack with her big eyes. Jack laughed. "Hi, Peanut," he said. "Will you help us again today?" asked Annie. In old Japan, Peanut had helped them when they had gotten lost. "We have to find 3 more things for Morgan," said Annie. Jack pushed his glasses into place. That's when you push them up on your nose when they slide. "First, we have to find a clue that tells us where to begin," he said. "Guess what?" said Annie. "What?" said Jack. "We don't have to look very far." She pointed at the corner of the treehouse. In the shadows was an open book. "Wow," said Jack, picking up the book. "The ninja book was opened yesterday. Now this one. Who opened them?" Jack closed the book and looked at the cover. It showed a picture of a green forest. The trees were very tall and close together. On the cover were the words, "The Rainforest." "Oh, wow," said Jack. "Oh, no," said Annie. "What's wrong?" said Jack. "I learned about the rainforest in school," said Annie. "It's filled with big bugs and spiders." "I know," said Jack. "Half of them have never even been named." "It's creepy," said Annie. "It's neat," said Jack. He wanted to take a lot of notes in the rainforest. Maybe he could even name some unknown bugs. "Neat? Yuck," said Annie. Ugh, she shivered. "I don't get it," said Jack. "You weren't afraid of dinosaurs. So? You weren't afraid of the castle guards or the mummy's ghost. So? You weren't afraid of pirates or ninjas. So? You're not afraid of really scary things, but you're afraid of little bugs and spiders. Does that make sense? So?" Jack sighed. "Listen," he said, "we have to go there to help Morgan. That's why the book was left open." "I know that," said Annie, frowning. "Plus, the rainforests are being cut down," said Jack. "Don't you want to see one before it's too late?" Annie took a deep breath and slowly nodded. "Okay, then, let's go," said Jack. He opened the book again and he pointed to the picture that showed blue sky, green leaves, and bright flowers. "I wish we could go there," he said. The wind began to blow. "Squeak!" "Stay here, Peanut," said Annie as she put the mouse in her pocket. The wind picked up and the treehouse started to spin. Jack squeezed his eyes shut. The wind was whistling now. The treehouse was spinning faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Wild sounds broke the silence. Screech, buzz, chirp, chirp. Jack opened his eyes. The air was hot and steamy. It looks like we landed in some bushes, said Annie. She was peeking out of the treehouse window. Peanut was peeking out of Annie's pocket. Jack peeked out of the treehouse too. They had landed in a sea of shiny green leaves. Outside there were flowers, bright butterflies, and birds, just as in the book. That's strange, says Jack. I wonder why we didn't land in a tree, the way we always do. I don't know, said Annie, but let's hurry and find the thing for Morgan so we can get back home before we meet any big bugs. Wait, that seems weird, says Jack. I don't understand why we landed in the bushes. I'd better read about this. Oh, come on, said Annie. We don't even need the ladder. We can just climb out the window. Annie put Peanut in her pocket, and she stuck one leg out the window. Wait! Jack grabbed Annie's other leg. He read, The rainforest is in 3 layers. Thick treetops, often over 150 feet tall, in the air, make up the top layer. This layer is called the forest canopy. Below the canopy is the understory, then the forest floor. Get back in here, cried Jack. We're probably more than 150 feet above the ground in the forest canopy. Yikes, said Annie, and she slipped back into the treehouse. We have to use the ladder, said Jack. He got on his hands and knees, and he moved leaves away from the hole in the floor. He looked down. The ladder seemed to fall between the branches of a giant tree, but Jack couldn't see beyond that. I can't tell what's down there, he said. Be careful. Jack put the rainforest book in his backpack, and he stepped onto the rope ladder. He started down, and Annie followed with Peanut in her pocket. Jack pushed through the leaves. Then he came to the understory below the canopy. He looked down at the forest floor. It was very far away. Oh, man, whispered Jack. This world was completely different from the one above the treetops. Now that they were out of the sun, it was cooler. It was also damp and very quiet. Jack shivered. It was the spookiest place he had ever seen. Jack didn't move. He kept staring down at the forest floor. What's wrong? Annie called from above. Jack didn't answer. You don't see any giant spiders, do you? Annie said. Well, no. Jack took a deep breath. We have to keep going, he thought. We have to find the special thing for Morgan. No spiders, nothing scary, Jack called, and he started down the ladder again. Jack and Annie climbed down through the understory. Finally, they stepped onto the forest floor. Only a few rays of light slanted through the gloom. The trees were very, very tall and very wide. Vines and moss were hanging everywhere. The ground was covered with dead leaves. Before we do anything, I'd better check the book, said Jack. He pulled out the rainforest book and he found a picture of the dark world under the treetops. He read, In the rainforest, many living creatures blend in with their surroundings. This is called camouflage. Oh man, said Jack. He closed the book and looked around. There's tons of creatures down there. We just can't see them. Really? Whispered Annie. She and Jack peered around at the quiet forest. Jack felt unseen eyes watching them. Let's hurry and find the special thing, whispered Annie. How will we know when we find it? Jack said. I think we'll just know, said Annie. She headed off through the gloom. Jack followed. They crept between the huge trees and past hanging vines. Annie stopped. Wait, what's that? What's what? Listen, that weird sound. Jack listened. He heard a crackling sound. It sounded like a person walking over leaves. Jack looked around. He didn't see anyone, but the sound got louder. Was it an animal? A giant bug? One that had never been named? Just then, the silent forest came alive. Birds took off into the air. Frogs hopped over leaves. Lizards ran up tree trunks. The weird noise grew louder and louder. Maybe the book explains it, said Jack. He opened the book and found a picture of different animals running together. He read, When animals hear crackling sound, they flee in panic. The sound means that 30 million flesh-eating army ants are marching through the dead leaves. It's army ants, cried Jack. Millions of them. Where? Cried Annie. Jack and Annie looked around wildly. There, Annie pointed. Army ants, millions and millions of them, were marching over the leaves. Run to the treehouse, cried Annie. Where is it? Said Jack, whirling around. All the trees looked the same. Where was the rope ladder? Just run, cried Annie. Jack and Annie took off. They ran over the dead leaves. They ran between wide tree trunks. They ran past the hanging vines and mosses. They climbed over thick roots. Jack saw a clearing ahead, and it was filled with sunlight. That way, he cried. Jack and Annie hurried toward the light. They pushed their way through the bushes. They burst onto a bank of a river. They stared at the slow-moving brown water. Do you think the ants will come this way? Annie said, panting. I don't know, said Jack, but if we wade a few feet into the water, we're safe. The ants won't go into the water. Come on. Look, said Annie. She pointed to a big log rocking at the edge of the water. The inside of the log was dug out. It looks like a canoe, said Jack. He listened to the crackling sound in the distance. Let's get in it, quick. Jack shoved the book into his backpack, and then he and Annie carefully climbed into the dugout log. Annie leaned out of it, and she pushed away from the bank with her hands. The bank is the edge of the river. Wait, said Jack. We don't have paddles. Oops, said Annie. The canoe started moving slowly down the muddy river. Squeak! Annie patted the little mouse in her pocket. It's okay, Peanut. The ants can't get us in the river. We're safe, she said. Maybe safe from the ants, said Jack. But where is this canoe going? Jack and Annie stared at the river, and branches spread over the water. Vines and mosses hung down from them. We'd better look this up, said Jack. He pulled the rainforest book out of his backpack, flipped through it, and soon he found a picture of a river. He read, The Amazon River stretches 4,000 miles from the mountains of Peru across Brazil to the Atlantic Ocean. The river basin contains over half of the rainforest in the world. Jack looked at Annie. We're on the Amazon River, he said. It's more than 4,000 miles long. Wow, Annie whispered. She looked at the river and she trailed her hand through the water. I have to make some notes, Jack said. He pulled his notebook out of his pack and he wrote, The Amazon rainforest is... Jack, look at these pretty little fish with the teeth, said Annie. What? Jack glanced up from his writing. Annie was pointing at some blue fish swimming near the boat. The fish had red bellies and razor-sharp teeth. Watch it, cried Jack. Those aren't pretty fish. Those are piranhas. They'll eat anything, even people. Yikes, whispered Annie. We better get on shore, said Jack, putting the books in his backpack. How, said Annie. We can't go in the water now, and we don't have any paddles. Jack tried to stay calm. We need a plan, he said. Jack stared at the river. The canoe would soon float under some vines. I'll grab a vine, said Jack, and pull us to shore. Good idea, said Annie. They glided under the branches, and Jack stood up. The canoe rocked, and he nearly fell out. Balance the canoe, said Jack. Annie leaned to one side, and Jack reached, but he missed, and the canoe floated under more branches. Jack reached up for another thick vine. He grabbed it. It was cold and scaly, and it wiggled and jerked. Ah! Jack screamed and fell back into the canoe. The vine was alive. It was a long green snake. The snake fell from the tree, and it splashed into the water and swam away. Oh, man, said Jack. He and Annie stared in horror at each other. What now? Said Annie, making a face. Well, Jack looked at the river. There were no more vines up ahead, but there was a big branch floating on the water. Grab that branch near you, said Jack. Maybe we can use it for a paddle. The canoe floated closer to the branch, and Annie reached for it. Suddenly, the branch rose into the air. It was a crocodile. Help! Screamed Annie and fell back into the canoe. The crocodile opened and closed its huge, long jaws. Then it moved past the canoe and swam up the river. Oh, man, whispered Jack. A screeching sound split the air. Jack and Annie jumped. Help, said Jack. He expected to see another terrible creature, but all he saw was a small brown monkey hanging by its tail from a tree. Okay, so that's chapters 1 through 5, and I want you to think about some words, some adjectives, those are words that describe things, some words that describe Jack and Annie. And I want you to give me one word for Jack and one word for Annie in the discussion box.